This is the briefing for Thursday, June 9th. Before I get to the analysis, I will be traveling most of next week. I won't be able to do a recording, but if there is a significant event in the markets, if we hit important support or resistance levels, I will send out a briefing, but it'll be in written form, the way you receive the briefings. There just won't be a video attached to it. Okay, so one of the reasons I didn't do a briefing last night was because it was just going to be a repeat of everything I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. Now, you can see the rotation that we've been in, and this was the close as of last night, and all I would have been able to say was we're still in an area of rotation, and to continue to watch the resistance and support levels. Now, today it was very interesting. We did open up appearing that we were going to go lower. They stalled the market for the majority of the day, as you can see right through here. And then as it broke down this important support area right around the 407, 408 area. And now the next level of support in the spiders is going to come in right around the 397, 398 area. And then below that it's going to be 385. So now that we have broken out of this area of rotation, this is the spiders, this is the Qs. The same thing happened in the Qs. I want to show you just a quick tip here. Now this is a 60-minute chart, and it gives me the ability to look at a greater degree time frame and see this in a much greater degree time frame. If I change this to a 15-minute chart, which is the chart I use mostly for trading, you get a different picture of this here. This looks like just a mess, as opposed to this, which is a very distinct, very important area of balance, or balance area, or area of rotation. But in switching it to a 15-minute chart, you can see that we had this area here that was pretty much an area of rotation on the daily basis here. And then you can see this pause right here. This was an intraday pause, and then we had a breakthrough right there. That gave me an early warning or an early indication that we potentially were going to break down. Now the risk is that you get down to the longer term support and it bounces off of it, but that's not what happened. Once this level was broken, then we went down and broke through this level here, and you can see here's the area I was talking about on the 15-minute chart. So it gave me a little bit of an early entry into this market, and once we traded through this level, and I was watching the Russell and the Qs at the same time, and they were all beginning to sell off, so it was a pretty significant event. Also, breadth was continuing to decline. You can see it opened lower, but then it paused, gained a little bit of strength in the pause, but then once the sell-off started, once this move started, it basically began to collapse, and you can see that finally we saw an increase in volume. Now this is a 60-minute chart, so it's a little out of whack in terms of what happens from the longer term, and I'll get to the longer term chart in a minute because I think that's more significant than what happens on an hourly basis here. So we closed below support in the spiders, in the Qs, and in the Russell. We closed about halfway down, maybe a little bit more than next to the next level of support, coming in around 398 in the spiders and right around the 295 area in the Qs. We closed at the low of the day, so that does suggest that the market will go lower tomorrow, because if it would have continued going lower today unless the market hadn't closed. Now, there is a significant event that is occurring tomorrow morning, and I think it's at 8:30 Eastern time, about an hour before the market opens, and that's the CPI numbers. Now, that number can have an effect and change the perception of value on the part of traders and investors. So that's going to be a significant event. Without that happening, the higher probability is we're going to see more lower prices in tomorrow's trading. Now, that number probably will not be a good number, but as somebody said to me today, if it beats expectation, the market may take it as being something positive. So what happens with that number is going to be critical to the continuation of this move to the downside. I suspect that the market probably knows more than we know right now, and the market suggests that there are other things happening other than the CPI number that is telling it that value is lower and not higher. The second thing is, a lot of times when there's a breakout, you get a breakout, a retest of the breakout point, and then a really big thrust in the direction of the breakout. Now, normally if this had stalled here and then we got a retest and then a thrust, I would have felt like that was probably a higher probability, but we didn't, and I think we've extended farther down than I would expect, at least at this point in time. So there probably will not be a retest of this breakout point and then another thrust. I think we're probably in the beginning stages of another move that will bring us back to the longer term charts and back into testing this this May 20th low. And you can see the divergence that occurred here between this low and the May 20th low, between volume diverging and market breadth was diverging as well. So here's the breakout that we had in for the last several days, the rotation that we looked at on a 60-minute chart. You can see that we've already broken pretty well down, testing the 401 area. Now, the important thing here is breadth was fairly negative today, and so that supports it from an internal perspective. But we finally got a tick up in volume, and I think that's extremely important. If we see a continuation of this move lower tomorrow, it's going to be important to see volume continuing to increase. If it's not increasing, then that would be suspect, and I would expect that we may even stall right around the 398 level, 399 level, and then see some type of rotation back to the upside. So it's going to be very important what happens with volume in tomorrow's trading. Same thing with the NASDAQ. You can see the area of rotation here. I should say the Qs. See the breakout right down below this 300 level. Next level of support comes in right at 385. That's the low from May 20th as well. And also you can see volume in the NASDAQ, or in the Qs, I should say, beginning to increase as well. That's going to be very important for that to continue tomorrow. NASDAQ breadth, this is NASDAQ breadth, negative also. Now, these are pretty negative numbers in terms of the NYSE and the NASDAQ, but they're not at an extreme. So I would fully expect that this market has the ability to continue to move lower in tomorrow's trading without divergences appearing in the internals. Now, if we were at a real extreme, like 27, 28, 2900 in negative breadth, that would then give me an indication that potentially we were reaching at least a short-term bottom, but that's not the case. So it does give us the ability to see lower prices in tomorrow's trading. Same thing with the Russell. You can see the Russell is approaching this shorter-term support at 182, and it needs to break through there. Russell volume was not increasing, so this gives me a little bit of concern for tomorrow. But with the other two indices selling off the way they were, and selling off fairly strongly with increasing internal support supporting the sell-off, I would expect that the Russell potentially has some more catching up to do in tomorrow's trading. Now, we did reach a point of being oversold in the NYSE and slightly oversold in the NASDAQ, but I fully expect that will not keep the indices from continuing lower in tomorrow's trading. As always, I will caution you that if you see lower prices tomorrow and you see a stronger breadth reading, that's a clear indication that we could even gap down to the 398, 399 level. And if there's stronger breadth, expect a bounce off of that and some type of rotation back to the upside. The same thing with the Qs. If there is a divergence in breadth at the open, that is a clear indication the market is strengthening internally, and we're going to see some type of rotation back to the upside. Total volume in the NYSE, you can see that it has ticked up as well and did very nicely in the NASDAQ. So you can see NASDAQ volume is doing quite nice in terms of increasing and supporting it. As you know, as I've been talking through these briefings, my biggest concern about this whole area of rotation was the fact that there was just no volume. It was just completely collapsing. And you can even look, this is volume for the spiders, and you can see how it was continuing to fall until today's trading. Same thing with the Qs. This was Qs volume. You can see how it was continuing to decline with each passing day. So there we are. If the CPI numbers come out and they're better than expectations, that could have a positive effect on the market. If we gap down and there is a stronger breadth reading, that will have an effect on the market going higher. If the CPI numbers are worse than expected, or if there's something else that the market knows about that we just quite don't understand yet, then we're going to see the potential for much lower prices. Watching what happens when we reach the initial shorter term support areas right now. And once again, I'll go over those. It's going to be about 398 area in the spiders and about 295 in the Qs. Have a great night, and I will certainly update the briefing in written form if I see anything that's significant after tomorrow's trading. Have a great night.